Welcome to the Cabrera Lab Podcast.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great's good. I mean, great's great,
really
actually.
Good. Great is really good.
Great is better than good.
Excellent.
It's a distinction.
It's massive.
I have been thinking about a lot of stuff, as always. I'm a thinker.
I wanted to tell you something.
Oh, yeah. Tell me. I forgot. Here.
We got our new book is out. Connect the dots. Think just what you need to get the job done. Very practical.
Yes.
Not a lot of background or anything like that. Just kind of like get to the point. Here's what you need to practice based on the research to become a great systems thinker.
The link will be in the description below. Okay.
What are we talking about?
We are talking about this.
Oh.
The 12 gets.
Wow.
This is a poster on the wall in our gym.
Yeah.
But before we talk about each get specifically, I think we should talk about the origin story of the 12 gets.
The origin story of the 12 gets.
You probably didn't come to all 12 at once. One would come to you, the other. And all of these things that have come to you to land in this 12 gets started when you were shifting your focus from just your theory and your academic and intellectual and scientific pursuits to apply your scientific skills to the human body and how to change the human body, brain and body.
Yeah, so I mean, I think people know I was from an early age after leaving high school. I didn't do so well in high school, and was a mountain guide and still am today. But for a little while, I took a break to do my scientific theory, and during that break, theory is a lot of brain work and a lot of sitting and computing and all that kind of stuff. And so, my life was kind of like, prior to that was in the mountains all the time. I could eat whatever I wanted. I was constantly exercising and all that stuff. So never really had to worry. And when I abruptly stopped that, gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Like a lot of weight. Yeah. And I think at my tops was 330.
Yeah.
Took a sabbatical when many years ago, and just said, I'm going to apply my systems thinking abilities and science, knowledge of how to read research and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to spend a year figuring out from a systemic point of view, how to be healthy. And, it touches on longevity and health and all that kind of stuff. And so the 12 gets is literally basically the culmination of a year sabbatical where I lost 115.
135.
Yeah.
At one point?
At one point, yeah. And then gained back some muscle. Yeah. So, lost a lot of weight. Went from being, pre or pretty close to diabetic to not at all. I don't take any pills. I don't take any medicine, that kind of thing. And I believe the 12 gets are, the reason for that. And I just wanted to understand the big picture of how to live healthy, mm-hmm. And live for longevity kind of thing. And also, not that just because you understand the big picture doesn't mean you all get it all at once. You have to work on each one.
Yeah.
But these are essentially, from what I could determine, the main things that one has to do to just be healthy and live a long life and be vital, essentially. Yeah. Meaning not just live long to count the years and beat some world record of how long you can be breathing, but mm-hmm. how long can you be vital, and truly living, Yeah,
and before we get to the specifics of this, I think it's important. We have a few friends that are older than us and a few that are younger than us who have had similar experiences, for example, they're diagnosed with a disease.
Yeah.
It's almost as if then there's an instantaneous mental model shift about your body, your health, and And so they've actually become healthier post-health scare
Yeah.
than pre
For sure.
pre-scare.
For
And
sure.
I guess what I would also want to make sure that, because, you know, I now have been watching your transformation. You've inspired the whole family. We've all gotten into the gym and we're lifting and we're eating different and focusing on, you know, we're focusing on all of these things. But I guess I want to make sure people can make that shift anytime. You don't have to wait
No.
for a health scare or a moment where
Totally.
a doctor says, I think you're heading here, or you've got this, or you've got that. Like,
Yeah.
this is a shift anybody can make at any time,
100%.
which is important because
Yeah, I mean, I was like heading down that path of, oh, I guess this is kind of what it means to be older, and
yeah,
I just said, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the pills and the pills that lead to more pills and the doctor's appointments that lead to more doctor's appointments and the diagnoses that lead to more diagnoses. I just, you know, I'm not doing it. I'm going to fight it every single minute. And I was not in a great space. I mean, I was 330 pounds. For a number of years during the theory, I had taken up smoking. You know, I wasn't in a great place physically. You know, you just get started and you do it one day at a time.
yeah,
And I just, you know, it literally started with, you don't even have to do anything in the gym.
Yeah.
Just go to the gym. Like every day you make a space for thinking about
here we
feeling your body.
Right,
you
get
know?
moving.
Yeah, just get to the gym and like, if all you can do is lay on the floor and feel your body, like that's being at the gym, you know? And that's how it started for me. It was just like, I need to make the space in my day for this thing.
Yeah,
And then over the years, now that space is filled with the 12 gets and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But you got, you know, one of the hardest things, especially if you're a professional that's really, you know, super motivated by what you do,
your work, yeah.
you know, and you love your work and you're just kind of a little bit of a workaholic or whatever you want to call it. Like if you're really into what you're doing, you know, sometimes it's hard to make the space. And so just making the space. We see this also, you know, in the PTSD protocol, like folks with PTSD, sometimes they can't sleep, but we don't want to say you got to get sleep. That just puts more pressure, more tension, more everything. But okay, make the space to sleep. So if you need to get minimum 3 hours a night of sleep, that might take you 6 hours that you have to make the space for.
Right.
And in the beginning, I would make, during my sabbatical, I would make the whole day space for, you know, half the day kind of thing. And I wasn't very efficient in the beginning. Like, you know, I couldn't get it, you know, but I made the space. So you just make the space.
Well, and also there's something you said I want to go back to, which is you got to sort of, even at the beginning, just start and feel your body. And I think what happens to a lot of people, and I notice this on days that I'm feeling busy or stressed, is you're so much in your head because you're feeling overwhelmed and you're doing this in your head that you forget that your head is attached to the rest of you
100%.
and that stress is distributed in your whole body. And just like you've said, you know, obviously I've started practicing a lot of what you're doing, taking that moment to try to sort of pull yourself out of your head and just literally feel your toes, feel your fingertips, feel the ground underneath you. You know, we have yoga mats and things like that. This is why people do yoga. It's why they meditate. It's why because they're trying to get out of that spin and into distributed energy, like right throughout their whole body.
You know, I'm sure this happens to all people, but for folks that are neurodivergent, like autism and ADD, you spend a lot of time in your head. And if on top of that, your job is as a theorist and, you know, you're pretty in your head, and you get to the point where your body is just this thing that carries your brain around. And that's just not good. And so just making the space to be like, oh, there's this whole body thing that I might want to pay attention to how it feels and what's going on. And you don't have to know anything, you know, to just make space. You don't have to know how to do yoga. I didn't know how to do yoga in the beginning. You don't have to know how to do anything.
Yeah.
You just have to make space. And then that space will get filled with knowledge. So in that space, I had the TV up and I had YouTube and every day, and then I had the computer and I would make space not just to feel my body, but to research things that were about the body. So I would, if I was wondering, I would go and I would start researching, well, what does the research say about this? And what does it say about this? And how do I do this? And
okay, so let's talk
so that led to the 12 gets. The 12 gets are a year in the making.
I know.
And I think it's important to understand that this is the application of systems thinking to a particular area. In this case, the field of longevity and vitality and health. Mm-hmm. When we apply systems thinking to any area, you're going to get something like what we're going to talk about today, the 12 gets.
Yes. So let's not keep people waiting. Let's talk about what you actually found. Okay, so we started with get moving.
That one's super simple. It's just like move your body in whatever way to keep your attention and present, in your body. Be present in your body with and again, it's like, which is I love Andy Galpin's idea of what's the best workout? It's the one you'll do. Like, what's the best movement? It's the one you'll do. Yeah. Whatever movement that you will do it. If it's putting on Footloose and dancing or whatever,
that's my style.
Whatever it is, like, just move. Just create a space and start moving.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how much movement in the beginning, if you just play around kind of
Here's
thing.
a good story for that. So a former student of ours who was heading towards obese and was heading towards diabetes in her 20s, she said to me one day, because she's now lost a lot of weight, she's living very differently. She said, I just started walking. And she said, and if I only made it 2 blocks in one day, I tried to make it 2.5 the next day. Yeah. And then I tried to make it 3. And she said, it didn't matter how many steps I was taking. It just mattered that I was taking steps.
Totally.
And now a year later, she's ready to start running and do all kinds of things. And it's completely transformed her.
So. It really is about, the whole thing is about incrementalism. It's just like what you do in the day. Yeah. Win the day is critical. So get moving.
Yep.
Then, and these aren't necessarily in order. These are just I'm just going around the horn here. Get pumped. There's a tremendous amount of research that says lift heavy things. And again, don't get hung up in all the different things. You can get there. You can get hung up in, do I do this or that or the other thing, bro splits, CrossFit, blah, blah, blah. Don't get hung up in that. Just lift heavy things.
Well, and also, just as a segue, because I'm a woman.
Yep.
I think a lot of times women, when you say lift heavy, you think, oh my God, I'm going to become a bodybuilder. I'm going to become big.
Yes.
And the truth is, especially for women over a certain age, lifting heavy relative to my strength.
Yes, of course.
Right? Relative to my strength.
Heavy is relative.
Right. That's what's going to increase my bone density. It's going to increase my muscle mass.
Your metabolism.
My metabolism. So when we say heavy, it's all relative, but just do something that's somewhat challenging in terms of...
Well, and you bring up a good point, because we have 2 daughters, and they say the same thing. It's like, the first thing that a lot of women say is, well, I don't want to get all jacked.
And big.
Big. And you're like, don't worry about that. Because just think about the people who are getting jacked. They are working really, really hard and fine-tuning everything to get that jacked.
Yes.
You're not going to get jacked by mistake.
No, it's not just going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And you'll see it happening.
You could live for the rest of your life and not get jacked if you don't lift in particular ways that are designed for hypertrophy and those kinds of things. So,
women are trained for cardio.
Yeah.
We're told to do step aerobics, run.
Yep.
And along the way, it wasn't until I got older and watched you that I realized I should be lifting and pushing the weights.
Yeah, that's really important too. Cardio obviously is very important. Mm-hmm. Your VO2 max or how getting your breath work, that kind of stuff, very important. But it sort of depends if you're trying to lose weight, which also has huge health implications. And by the way, I'm just sharing kind of a systemic view. I think there are people who know each one of these much better than I do by far. So if you want to dive into, get pumped and what that means and lifting, there are people out there that know this stuff really. They spent their whole life just on one of the gets or whatever. So
do the research.
I'm sort of coming at it from more of a systemic what are the things that I got to get in my life every day or every week in order to live, a long, vital life.
Yes.
So cardio is like a really interesting one if you're losing weight, which is something I do have experience with. You kind of want to reduce the cardio because the cardio kind of makes you hungrier. And so it's harder to get a calorie deficit on a daily basis. And the weightlifting will increase your metabolism. So you actually kind of want to trade off on the weights.
You want to balance it out.
And balance it out in order to, if your goal is first, let's get the weight down kind of thing.
So say I'm a person that's 300 pounds.
Yeah.
And in order to really be able to start trying to become flexible and lift weights, I need to get some weight off first.
Yeah, no, I probably wouldn't do the cardio to lose weight. The losing weight, that's what I'm saying. Cardio makes you want to eat more.
I see.
So that you're not going to get the calorie deficit. So in the beginning, especially if you're really heavy, I would just maybe do some walking.
Yes.
Try to get some number of steps every day, and get your find out what your BMR is, your basal metabolic rate, like how many calories are you burning on a daily basis just sitting.
Yeah.
And then get a calorie deficit.
And do some lifting.
And do some lifting.
Understood.
Because the lifting is going to increase your metabolism.
Yes.
So it's going to make you your engine's going to burn better.
Yeah.
So
good.
I wouldn't, like a lot of folks, they like, I want to lose weight, they go run. And
that increases the appetite.
Yeah, it kind of does, it's hard to lose weight that way.
And it doesn't build as much muscle as balancing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the next one of my favorites, get flexible.
Yeah, I just found this to be super important, and this ties into just making space for listening to your body, whether it's yoga or just stretching or whatever you want to call it, plyometrics, whatever thing that you're interested in doing. Mm-hmm. Just like try to get range of motion stretches of some kind every day or every week. I started yoga. I just learned a couple moves, and then I got more and more into it. And then I moved to like more dynamic yoga, and after like a year. But in the beginning, I literally did like sun salutation, which was a bunch of pretty simple moves.
Yeah.
That you can do every day, and it was huge because it got me like present in my body, and for a number of years I was not in my body doing the theory. So
right. And then I also took a class on stretching, and one of the things that I brought to it a little bit is sometimes it's better to do a slightly longer stretch, like more than 2 minutes to really get that muscle to be more elastic. So the thing is, when you're lifting, right, at some point you have to balance that out with some of the flexibility and elongation. So that was good.
That's right.
All right, next one.
Get hot. The sauna is fantastic. And that, again, was a great place for me, especially in the beginning, but I'm absolutely addicted to the sauna. I love it.
Yeah.
To get in my body. The sauna is like an amazing place to almost do kind of check in with your body. You can do some light exercises if you want eventually, but in the beginning I probably wouldn't. And, getting hot every day.
Like sweating, really sweating.
Hot shock kind of stuff.
I like it as like a deprivation.
The research on that's pretty clear and pretty solid. Then counterbalance that with getting cold. So the cold plunge, I'm also pretty addicted to that. I love it. It makes a huge difference. And to be honest, the hot and cold are the two things that I don't miss no matter what. Like almost every day, if not every day, I do those. So if I'm feeling like my body's a little bit, I don't want to lift today because it's a little wrecked or something like that, I'll still do the hot and the cold shock stuff.
Well, and the cold thing is about, I find, so when I think I'm getting sick, I get in there. Yeah. It changes my mood. It sort of makes me feel more alert. Anything that's bothering me, or like if I feel it gets rid of inflammation. Yeah. I just think it's cold cannot be. You can't say enough about the importance of the cold.
Of both of them.
Yeah. The contrast is really important.
It's really they're both great. So
this episode is brought to you by STSI, the Systems Thinking Standards Institute.
Yes, super excited to work with STSI, raising the standard for 8 billion systems thinkers, science-based standards, training, the professional systems thinking credential, accreditation for organizations, the systems thinking or thinker toolkit. And so I really encourage folks to go to stsi.pro, take the trainings, get the credentials, get your organization accredited, get the toolkit.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Help us get to 8 billion.
And it's a 501c3 nonprofit.
Don't forget that.
It's a great partner. So far, get moving, get pumped, get flexible, get hot, get cold. This one's huge. Get nourished. Choose like a diversity of balanced whole foods, local if possible, colorful foods, not Cheetos. That's the wrong kind of color.
Or blue ices.
Or blue ices. But a diversity of color. For me, the big shift was the goop, which we've done episodes on. Like avoid goop like the plague. Yeah. If you do that single thing, the goop is the killer. Sugar, processed foods.
Yes, we should refer back to the goop episode.
The goop episode.
War on goop.
And for me, that was big because that just completely changed my relationship to food. And I was being pretty thoughtless for that period.
Yeah.
And even in my mountaineering, my early mountaineering days, I wasn't real. Yeah, I just ate to fuel.
Yeah.
Like for calories.
Just calories, yeah.
And I was younger and, you know how that is. But, as soon as you remove processed foods and sugar from your diet, it just changes the game. And today, if I taste something that's like, dessert, it's almost sickeningly sweet.
Yeah.
You realize that we've accustomed ourselves to these things that are kind of ridiculous, but you don't realize it until you eat a cantaloupe and you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
like this is it's very sweet,
yeah.
But if you eat a cantaloupe next to a cake or a donut or any or even like the yogurt things those.
The yogurt bars?
Yogurt things.
Oh, the squeezy Go-Gurts.
The squeezy Go-Gurt. Oh. I mean, like everything has sugar in it.
We should not say the name of it. We should just say squeeze yogurt.
Why shouldn't we say the name?
Because we don't want to get sued by Go-Gurt.
Oh, Go-Gurt is disgusting, and you should not give it to your children. So I'll say that all day long. Sue me if that's not obvious that the sugar industry is killing our children.
Any yogurt that's blue is probably not
absolutely.
But here's the thing about the goop thing that I wanted to say. The goop thing makes it very simple. It's goop or it's not goop.
Goop or not goop, yeah.
Then you don't have to do a whole bunch of meal planning. And you just know.
Totally.
Goop,
yeah, you just draw a really black and white distinction between goop and not goop. So goop is like breads, pastas, all that stuff is goop. Any of that processed stuff, anything that was goopy at one point in its life cycle is goop. Also,
if you're having a hard time with it, go on YouTube and find a video of them making something like bread or chicken nuggets. And you can see the vats of goop coming out through these things.
Exactly.
And being shaped.
Probably my favorite one is Get Outside. Mm-hmm. Get Outside has a bunch of different parts to it. It's getting sun, super important. The research on that's pretty clear. Getting sun in the morning, getting your feet to the earth, grounding on the earth, super important, especially if you're neurodivergent. But also just like being outside, being in nature is, for me, like sanity producing. I can't say enough about getting into nature and being, even if nature is just like walking on the grass or sitting in the sun but if you can get into the mountains and get into, hiking or something like that, it's just so good for you.
Well, and I think it actually lowers your blood pressure, fresh air and quiet. And also there's the whole rise with the sun. So your circadian rhythms, you'll sleep better. Okay.
Yeah, if you can, I find personally extended trips in the mountains to be absolutely necessary. And by that I mean at least a week or more, something more like 10 days or more in the mountains. That at least once a year, but preferably more, where you get in the rhythm of nature and you become like very, very one with nature. Now, obviously, you're not going to start there, but you can start with morning sun on your face.
Have your coffee outside.
Have your coffee outside, and whatever.
Yeah.
Get outside. Super important. Get smart. Challenge your brain every day. I mean, we say don't skip brain day because a lot of people skip brain day. I mean, like everybody skips brain day. I think working on your brain, which is, by the way, we talked about the book, but I mean, this is mental fitness. This is what mental fitness is about.
The exercises of mental fitness are actually in
that. There are actually exercises that we know, supported by scientific research, that make you smarter. And it's not Sudoku, it's not crosswords, it's not, those things make you better at, Sudoku will make you better at Sudoku. Crosswords will make you better at crosswords. But these kinds of mental fitness exercises will make you better at being smart. And smart, by the way, is not IQ. It's not the number of letters after your name. It's not how educated, quote unquote, you are. Smart is how much you can adapt to different situations.
Right.
So being adaptive in your thinking is what smart is.
Yes, I also think this is the place where the idea of brain and body comes into play.
Totally.
Because all of these things you're talking about are actually brain and body together in a way that's integrated.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my little pet peeves about brain and body stuff is, like, most of the time when people are talking about brain and body stuff, they're talking about brain stuff serving body stuff.
Right.
So they're not really talking about, they're talking about, like, you're going to be better in your body if you do these kinds of brain things. But they're not talking about, like, you're going to be, Einstein level innovative.
Right.
Right? And what I'm talking about is, like, can you be what you pick your hero, but Arnold Schwarzenegger and Albert Einstein combined, right? So when I say get smart, I don't mean get smart like in order to be more muscular or be more cardio or be more whatever. I mean, like, actual, like, raw intelligence, do mental fitness exercises that are designed for making an adaptive, dynamic brain.
Yeah.
And that also goes, all of these things go to getting challenged, which is kind of at the top there. But
that's where we'll end.
We'll end there.
We're going around this way. Okay, here's your next one.
Get laid. The research shows this is really good for you. So,
you're blushing on camera.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good research that shows that, sex is really good for you.
Physically, mentally, emotionally,
all of it.
All of it. So
hard to, embarrassing,
but we mean it in this. It comes in the sense of inside of human connection, body connect. It's one of those sort of manifestations of all of it.
Yeah, it's kind of a systemic thing to engage in sex, healthy sex, So so the next one is get connected.
Yep.
And that hopefully is involved in the getting laid and all that stuff, and but also just getting connected. I mean, the social is incredibly important. So going out with friends or just being with one other person where you can connect and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Vulnerability actually leads to trust, not the other way around.
Right.
Which the research is really interesting on that, and so just feeling connected with at least one other person.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, like, I don't need hundreds of friends or even dozens of friends, but a few really, really good friends is important.
Yeah.
And some people are different. They need, like,
a lot.
A lot of friends. But however, whatever floats your boat socially.
Yeah.
Get connected with people.
Well, and I think it's just humans need to be connected to other humans. Absolutely. For their own. I mean, COVID showed that more than anything.
Yep.
Quarantine was 100%. Mental health, of feeling so isolated. So connected is good.
And then get sleep. you got to get sleep.
That
was a really hard one for me because I don't sleep very much. I don't like sleep. I never liked sleep. Even when I was a kid, I hated going to bed. I never liked going to bed. I love being awake. I pretty much hate sleep. There's nothing about sleep that I like, but I had to learn to like sleep and see the value of sleep because it's super important.
Because it does that restorative recovery of everything you've done for the day.
It's super important. Different people, I think, have different needs for sleep. I mean, they say, 8 hours or whatever. When I get 8 hours of sleep, I feel sluggish. So I don't actually like getting 8 hours of sleep. It's very rare that I get 8 hours of sleep. I feel nice around 5, 6. I know that that's against the dominant research on the matter, but people maybe are different or something because I don't have an alarm clock, so I wake up, whenever I wake up. So it's not like I'm stopping my body from sleep, but
let's take a pause here before we get to the last thing, which is something that I've learned over the last few years with you and just generally speaking is you should always trust your instincts about your own needs.
Totally.
Right? So if you are a person who's highly functional with 6 hours of sleep, don't believe you have to try to force yourself to get 8 because people say you need 8.
Yeah.
Right? If you, the same thing goes with food. If you're craving salt, if you're, let's say I'm craving potato chips. Well, I can now say to myself, oh, I'm not craving potato chips. I'm craving salt. My body is telling me, it's giving me feedback that I need salt.
That's a really great point.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, they're like in the Get Nourished, there's this thing that happens where your body craves something, but then your mind switches what it is, and your mind gets help from marketing and multi-billion-dollar industries of goop. And so you might, exactly like you said, your body might need magnesium, and you're thinking chocolate bar.
Exactly.
Well, that's your brain is thinking chocolate bar, but magnesium you can get in a bunch of very healthy places. And if you give your body what it needs, it'll stop craving it, and then you'll stop connecting it to these kind of mental cravings, right?
Yes.
So that becomes important on the Get Nourished because a lot of times we've kind of manipulated or crossed the wires with all this marketing that's convinced us that when we want something, when our body craves like a carbohydrate, we don't think apple. We think spaghetti.
Bread.
We think bread. We think
donuts,
cookies. We think donuts. Well, no. All of the fruits and all of the vegetables are carbohydrates. So if you give your body some of that, your body's going to shut up. Your body's going to be like, oh, thanks, I got it.
Well, and I think also for me, I think there's this thing where you can trust your instincts physically, mentally. So, for example, one of the things that people have said is strange is I don't count reps in the gym.
Yeah.
Because then I'm focused on counting. Instead, I'm feeling
100%.
like, when is my muscle tired? And I stop.
Yeah.
Or actually, when it's tired, I'm like, I go 2 more, and then I stop. Because if I'm constantly saying, oh, I have to get 100 reps of this, or I have to get 20, I'm in my brain counting. I'm not actually feeling my muscles in the gym, right? So, I don't know. I just think there's something about getting in touch with what works for you and trusting
100%.
Makes a big
and that
difference.
To me, that's why the 12 Gets are valuable because they give you guideposts about these are the things you want in your life on a daily, weekly basis.
Yes.
For sure. But how you do them is super, there's a lot of room because I will tell you, in the first 6 months, man, I don't feel this way anymore because I've now spent a lot of time in this world. But in the first 6 months, I just felt like, how do you get good information, reliable information? Who do you believe?
Yeah.
Who do you not believe? I mean, there's so much good stuff out there. And there's also so much bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell the difference. And I'm a trained researcher. And so when there's a study, I go look at it. And then you go, oh, well, this study doesn't really say what that guy says it says, And so, a lot of people aren't going to have that time or those skills or that training or whatever. And it's hard. It was hard even with those skills and that training. And so I feel like, I mean, again, I don't feel this way as much anymore, but I remember in the first 6 months of my sabbatical, my chief complaint was like, God, you just can't.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know what to trust?
You have to sort through a lot.
You have to sort through a lot of stuff. And so to me, the 12 gets just kind of, these are for sure things that we know if you do these things. Mm-hmm. And again, do them there's a lot of latitude in the way you do them. Mm-hmm. that you can make your own fingerprint of how you do them.
Yes.
You know, people are going to argue about every single little detail. You know, get pumped means, you know, bro splits or this splits or that splits. And it's just like, you know what? Just lift heavy things and enjoy and be creative in the gym and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And the workout that you do is the best one. The one that you'll do is the best one.
Yes, and then the benefits of that translate to your daily life.
Yeah, and
100%.
And the more you get into it, the more you'll get into it,
yeah.
right? The more if you start just moving, then you'll be like, oh, now I feel like I could move some more, and now I feel like it's just super cool.
Okay, let's finish it up on the last one.
I think the last one, in a way, I mean, they're all important, but the last one is kind of like meta with all of them, and that is just get challenged. Get challenged. Like, challenge yourself to do things you don't want to do. Challenge yourself to do things that are hard. And by hard, it could be something like the ice plunge is hard. Like every morning, I don't want to do the ice plunge. In that second that you're about to get in, you're like, I don't want to do this.
No.
But you do it. And, you know, the last few minutes of the sauna, I'm like, holy moly, I'm hot.
Yeah.
But you challenge yourself, and it doesn't matter what the challenge is. All it matters is that you're challenging yourself. That's it. And if you're incrementally challenging yourself to try new things, to do new things, you know, in the beginning, for example, of my sabbatical, I would be like, okay, this person says to do this, I'm going to do this. And now the difference today is I go in and I have some routines, but I'm also very creative.
Yeah.
And I listen to what I need, my body's asking for, and then I invent new things and I try new things. And the gym is a creative space.
Yeah.
And all of that kind of comes from get challenged, like try
new stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that has a huge effect on all these other things, because when you try new stuff, it kind of like it throws your body off a little bit, and then your body has to adapt. It throws your mind off a little bit, and your mind has to adapt. And being adaptive is kind of what keeps you vital.
Yes.
So challenge is sort of fundamental to vitality, because it's fundamental to adaptation. Your body, your mind is invariably adaptive if you challenge it.
Yeah.
But if you don't, if you get into like the ruts or the routine, then it's your body's going to adapt to that routine, and it's going to be like, I got this. I can do this without building muscle. I can do this without breathing hard. I can do this without thinking.
It's less motivating.
And and you get bored and all that stuff too. So get challenged is, I think, one of the coolest parts of it. And challenge equals change.
Yes.
Like, if you want something to change, you must challenge. Whatever it is you want to change, if it's your body, your mind, your relationships, you must challenge it.
I think
challenge equals change. So those are the 12 gets.
Those are the 12 gets, and they've been hard-earned. I will say, having watched you go through this journey, you did the work. And hopefully people can take this as a blueprint and then customize it.
And customize it to yourself. I mean, that's the thing, is like none of these things, all of these things are important, but none of them are, you know, set in stone. They're within each one. You can make it your own and choose your, you know, what you want to do in those things. But just try to get, you know, and again, like, don't try to get all 12 of them today if you're starting out or starting from a deficit.
Somewhere.
Just start somewhere and just be like, oh, someday I'm going to get that one. I'm going to get that one. And that's why we call them the gets, because they're kind of aspirational gets.
Yeah. Yeah. And some days you might get some of them and you'll feel good. And then you'll get more of them. And, who knows? And they're all interconnected to me.
They're all interconnected. And that's with all from a systems point of view, then once you start getting them in your life, then you start realizing, oh, this one's connected to this one and this one's connected to this one. And I can combine these two and get all kinds of cool interconnections between them. But yeah, that's kind of that's the gig. That's the gets.
That's the gig of the gets.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I've wanted to do this for a while. I'm glad we finally got this one taped, because I think this is really important.
I live by it. It's like a huge poster in the gym that I look at every day, and
you're going to live longer by it.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
For me, for everybody.
All right. I think that's a wrap.